Okay.
Can I do a promo? See, I'll put my cup right there like that. There you go. It's a promo right there. Okay. Ooh, look. Uh-oh.
You're good
Uh-oh.
to go.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
You're live, Dawn.
Good evening. Welcome to the San Ramon Parks and Community Services Commission meeting of May 13th, 2020. I'm calling the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States
States of America,
of America and to the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Debbie, you wanna
Item
say
3, roll call.
Yes, before I call roll, I would like to make an announcement to the committee regarding the teleconferencing of this meeting. Prior to roll call, I would like to make it clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that the governor has issued 2 executive orders relaxing the requirements pertaining to remote meetings under the Brown Act. To facilitate social distancing and to slow the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, the executive orders authorize state and local legislative bodies, including this committee, to hold public meetings by teleconference more easily. These provisions will remain in effect during the period in which state or local public health officials have imposed or recommended social distancing measures. The order allows the committee to proceed with its members participating electronically or telephonically. Committee members are no longer required to be physically present in a meeting in order to participate or to establish a quorum. The agency must provide a means for the public to observe the meeting and to provide the public an opportunity to comment electronically or telephonically. The opportunities for public observation and participation must be and have been included in the meeting notice. The procedures adopted for this meeting have been established to meet or exceed the standards set forth in the order. For more information, please refer to Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N-25-20. I will now take roll, after which I ask the chair to recognize me in order to confirm certain matters for the record. Commissioner Dorlick,
Here.
Commissioner Lewis,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez,
Present.
Commissioner Oslin,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Here.
Student Commissioner Goganini,
Here.
Vice Chair Veros, Vice Chair Veros, you could wave or say here.
We cannot hear you, Commissioner Veros. We need to have your volume to work so we can hear you.
Actually, it might be more appropriate to say there rather than here, huh?
Chair Birnbaum,
Present.
thank you. I have 3 questions for the committee members. I'll ask all 3 questions, and if the answer is yes to all 3 questions, please say yes and raise your hand. Question number 1, can you hear me well?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
I'm waiting,
Question,
Mr. Dar. I think he's having volume problems, and that's important for the commission to vote, that he needs to be able to he needs to raise his hand that he can hear you, and we need to be able to hear him say.
I don't see him on the gallery view.
He's on.
Oh,
Oh, there he is.
Shadar, can you hear us?
turn,
Sridhar, you may have to log off and log back in to make the.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yes.
oh, yes.
Yeah, so
Great.
sorry for that.
Proceed.
No problem. Question 2, have you been able to hear all previous speakers, including the roll call, clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Question 3, are you satisfied, based on facial or voice recognition or otherwise, that everyone here presenting themselves to be a committee member is actually the person they are representing themselves to be?
Yes.
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 The record should reflect that I have received affirmative answers from each committee member present to all 3 questions. And finally, I would ask the committee that any votes taken during this meeting be taken by roll call. We can now proceed to item 4.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 4, special items and announcements. Item 4.1, changes and additions to the agenda.
Yes, we do have one change to the agenda. We're going to move item 11.1 and 11.2. They're going to be moved to 9.1 and 9.2.
Any other additions or modifications?
No,
So item 4.2. Madam Clerk, do I need to read this, or
yes, or would you like me to read it, or?
could you please read it?
Yes, item 4.2. If you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken on the agenda item. You will then be unmuted when it is your turn to make your comment for up to 3 minutes. After the allotted time, you will then be remuted. Item 4.3, board, committee, and commission meetings. Most committee meetings have been canceled. However, please check the city's website for upcoming meetings. Item 4.4, special announcements.
I have one special announcement, which I think you'll all get. We are not doing our Employee of the Month presentation while we are doing our meetings this way. So we'll keep those on hold until such time as we can meet in person again. That's it.
Good. Item 5, public comment or written communication. At this time, those in the audience are encouraged to address the Parks and Community Service Commission on any item not already included in tonight's agenda. Members of the public who are not participating via Zoom will have the opportunity to make comments to the Parks and Community Service Commission live through the Zoom application. Comments should not exceed 3 minutes. Comments from the public under public comment may also be submitted by email to, do I need to read through the email?
No.
Okay. No commission action can be taken at this meeting on issues raised during the public comment, whether submitted by email or Zoom. Written public comments, emails must be submitted to the Parks and Community Service Department prior to the commencement of the meeting. Reading of public comments, emails into the record by the recording secretary will be limited in duration to 3 minutes each. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Item 6, approval of the minutes. 6.1, Parks and Community Service Commission regular meeting, March 11th, 2020. Any comments, adjustments?
I move to approve the minutes as stated.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Then we'll move to a vote. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Commissioner Dorlick,
Yes,
you'd say yes or yay
well,
or
I'm the maker, so yes.
Commissioner Lewis,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Yes.
Commissioner Oslin,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Abstain.
Vice Chair Barros,
Yes.
Chair Birnbaum.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 7, consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered routine and are acted upon by the Parks and Community Service community services with a single action. Members of the audience wishing to provide public input may request that the commission remove the item from the consent calendar. Do you have any consent calendar items?
No, we do not.
All right, item 8, commission business. Item 8.1, update of draft 5-year capital improvement program 2020 through 2025.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. I'll take just a second to pull up the PowerPoint presentation for the 5-year capital program, and I'm focused on the next year's fiscal year improvements. Let me get this slide up. Stand tight. Right. Put my tie on for the first time in about 2 months now. Let's see if you guys put ties on tonight. So I had to search around. It's been a little while.
We were
All
just
right.
talking about that.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you for taking the time to present this to us.
you bet. So let me jump right in. The capital improvement program, I will be presenting this tonight. This is for the 5-year program as well as the capital year for next year. I'm pinch hitting for Jim Patchett that has typically done it in the past. I also want to give a quick shout out to a lot of staff. It takes quite a group effort. Both Jen and Amy Amiri are really helpful in coordinating with a lot of the staff, and eventually Amy puts together this thick binder here, which is really the 5-year program every year. This is obviously last year's, but that's what we do through the process. We also have key staff here to answer any questions. That is Scott Rennick's our public services program manager, Sandy Martin, our facilities program manager, and Brent Scroggs, our parks program manager. So we got a whole crew here. Everyone's an integral part to put this all together every year and prioritize and lay out all the projects. So with that, I'll roll through. With focus on reviewing our development strategies, funding, and again, focus on next capital year and the 5-year program. Again, this is, I call it the road show. Every year we go through this process. This is one of the steps we started earlier this month. We started with Infrastructure Committee. We went over the 5-year pavement management program and also the Doherty Valley tree annual plan. Monday, we had the Finance Committee. That was the whole enchilada with all the projects and everything. Obviously, tonight is parks and facilities that we focus on. Next week, they have TAC, focusing on transportation circulation. Then we have the Planning Commission that approves for conformance with the general plan. And then finally, the City Council approves the whole program. And then on July 1st, we get rolling and start all those projects up. So with that, focusing on parks and lands and facilities, those plans this coming year, we have 3.6 million in funding for various projects. I'll go further into detail later in the slides. And around 13 million for the full 5-year program. Again, creating this whole program, and Jen coordinates a lot with the public service staff to review how all the pieces and parts fit together to come up with a plan, timing of improving the facilities and maintenance and all those other elements to create a plan. We also prioritize. Again, we don't have unlimited funding, so we have to prioritize what we're going to do. So every year we go through this exercise to figure out what's the most appropriate projects to put forward and within the 5-year plan. So clearly, item 1 is safety, complying with regulatory compliance, supporting master plan. Examples, ADA compliance, maybe fire code, other elements obviously rise to the top with priorities. Number 2, reduce ongoing repairs, increase functionality, sustainability, could be anything from upgrading lighting efficiency, picnic tables, what have you. So a lot of elements throughout the city that need improvement. And then number 3 is this plan replacements, expenditure offsets, aesthetic items. So the infrastructure maintenance fund, getting back to funding. The previous strategies was for over about 10 years, we seeded it with the council put in $200,000 to that fund, and it was previously the building maintenance fund. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough money to keep up with aging infrastructure. So as we went along, we had to really prioritize, and a lot was deferred. Then we came to 16, 17. Council agreed to provide more seed, 1.5 million a year, and that really helped to try to get caught up with all of our infrastructure. 17, 18, there was 1.5 million contribution, and then a super funding. Sounds all exciting, but it was because we had money that year. So we got 2 more million, so we got 3.5. So that also helped to get us caught up. Of course, 18, 19 budgetary constraints, it dialed down to 435,000. In 18, 19, we also came up with a better philosophy to tackle the facilities. Instead of, I call it piecemealing, going into one facility, fix a couple things, another one, fix a couple things. It's a way of going after one facility and just trying to do all the improvements together. So you've maximized the patron impacts of closing something and opening and then coming back again to change out the carpet. So we've been doing that the last few years. I think it's been successful kind of packaging them together. So with that said, 2 buildings this last year, the Acosta Senior Center, that the renovation of that, and then what's going on right now, the San Ramon Community Center, restoring that, and that should be completed by early summer here is what's targeted. Again, there was a 1.5 million contribution. This year, there will not be a contribution. I will be going into it later with the certificate of participation debt financing funding that we're receiving to augment all of that. And then again, the renovation and those plans are in your attachment with the staff report. So again, in 1920, certificate of participation, which is like a debt financing, was approved by council, processed, and it included up to 24 million to put into infrastructure. So for right now, there was 6.6 million earmarked for facility improvements, which is great. So that got plugged in right away for the community center and other buildings, which is great. There's also 2 buildings that are going to be targeted for next fiscal year. The Doherty Station Community Center and Library, that is 500,000, which is really the design phase next year, and then construction of 2 million the following year. And the other is the San Ramon Olympic Pool and Aquatic Park. That'll also get further into with one of the slides, but those are projects that are seeded by this COP financing. This again went to Finance Committee on May 11th, a few days ago. So park development funds. This is a challenging one. We have 355,000 in the park projects. I like to say we don't have a crystal ball. So when we try to determine when developers are going to give us their fees, we try to do the best we can to estimate when that'll happen. Unfortunately, there's been a couple projects in particular that's been challenging determining when they're going to submit fees. And these are not the millions of dollars. So one is Rome. This is the old outpost. We all see they got raised or leveled a couple years ago, and it's been sitting stagnant, and it still is. So they're having trouble financially making it work. So that's delaying the fees the city gets and turns around and spends it on infrastructure. So unfortunately, we're waiting on that. And then ditto for the Aspenwood, which is a development in South San Ramon on Acosta, which is 95 senior housing units. We're waiting on fees for that of around $1 million. So again, it's tricky to anticipate exactly when we'll get those fees, but it does impact our program and how we program all these projects when that money isn't received yet. So also in the future outlook, there's other development projects that will come online, Chang, Morgan's Masonry, and a few others, and that will generate more revenue and turn around and be able to do projects listed in the capital improvement program. All right, so we're going to dive into project specifics. Put up a slide and then you guess what it is, right? So the first one is the Doherty Station Community Center and Library renovation. Again, that one, we had COP financing. We have 500,000 for next year for design and then 2 million for construction in the following year. And that is to renovate that building, restroom fixtures, carpeting, painting, appliances, heaters, doors, exterior painting of stucco, ADA upgrades, so various elements within that building that will begin not this year, but next. The next, San Ramon Community Center, like I mentioned, that's been in progress, doing real well with the progress, and things should finish up, although it says winter on the slide, it's really a little later than that, but I think everyone will be impressed when it is complete and opened up here soon, probably early summer. Again, that has various improvements in the different rooms and windows, resurfacing, flooring, exterior renovation. So quite the kit and caboodle for that as well. And then we'll move on to pools, although tricky with the pools right now with the environment we're in, but the San Ramon Olympic Pool and Aquatic Park renovation, 2.7 million. And that's really to replaster both the 50-meter and the play pool. That's really the big ticket item. That's expensive item. The rest is replacing heaters, pumps, play structures with the children, equipment, slides, and other appurtenances. Then we'll go to the Forest Home Farm structures. We have some funding in that. The San Ramon Historic Foundation also is contributing 40,000 of that, and the focus is on painting some of the outbuildings, painting of the Welcome Center, and then repair to the grotto. And next, we just have city facility HVAC duct cleaning and equipment replacement. That project is typically a yearly project. We focus on what's needed throughout the city for keeping upkeep on that. Next, similar is the city facilities roof covering, 25,000, and that one a lot of times is used. It's usually when it's in the wintertime and there's leaks and rain and all that stuff. And San Ramon Olympic Pool equipment replacement. That one is the filters and pumps, changing those out, tarp reel, and other elements of such. And then interior amenities for 188,000. We have a number of facilities in that's covered. City Hall, AED installation. Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center, paint the stage wall. Front Row Theater, which is on the picture there. Replace drapes and curtain, paint the walls. The San Ramon Service Center, replace washer and dryer. And then various sites, just door hardware upgrades and things like that. Doherty Valley Aquatic Center, also some equipment replacement. That is the children's pool, display pumps, dive boards, tarp reel, and other elements there. And central irrigation system upgrades. This is upgrades to our irrigation system. When we upgrade the controllers, it just helps better monitor and control, and it's more efficient with water use and timing of the whole system overall. So as we systematically go through all those and upgrade those, it does help with water efficiency. Next is fountain repairs and renovations. That is Central Park Fountain. I'm actually getting cut off on the slide for there's a few others. So we'll still here we have the Central Park Fountain, the Meadow Fountain, Bollinger Fountain needs the LED relamped, and the Rancho San Ramon Children's Display Pump. So there's actually 4 different fountains or repairs to occur next year. And irrigation booster pump. We have Live Oak, Walt Disney, and each branch to place those. And citywide park amenities, this is kind of the kitchen sink. It's 170,000 in park development. It varies all over from all the parks within the city of barbecues, picnic tables, drinking fountains, cans, pet stations, and what have you. So Athen Downs, a backstop or player. So it's quite a lengthy list. This is really summarizing it, but there are a lot of elements within it to keep the parks looking good and ready for use. So next steps, staff to bring the this fiscal year projects forward as part of the CIP process. I mentioned before, you guys are one integral step in the whole process for everyone to look at this and comment and get everyone's input as we move through the process, and then we finalize it, and then we go to town next year with the, I think, 67 projects. So anyway, the final budget presentation is to the council. That's a workshop, and we go over the 5-year plan there. But then the final approval is actually in June, on June 9th. So with that, I think that was the final slide. So with that, I've ended the presentation. If you guys have any comments, questions, clarifications, I'll be more than happy to answer questions, or have additional staff help out as well that's standing by anxiously to answer any questions you may have.
Madam Secretary, how are we going to get, so I will see the hands raised on my screen, correct?
Correct. So we already have Vice Chair Burrows and Commissioner Dorlick both have their hands up.
I don't see it on my screen.
Okay,
Click on participants, Don, then you should see it.
Click on what?
Participants.
At the bottom.
I got it. I got 3.
Correct.
All right. But it doesn't show which 3.
You got Vice Chair Burrows, Commissioner
Okay.
Dorlick, Commissioner Lewis.
So we'll start with Vice Chairman Burrows.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian, for valuable information, for sharing that excellent presentation with valuable information. I just wanted to say that I'm really excited, especially about that centralized irrigation system. Hopefully that will solve all our problems with over-watering or no watering issues that we had during summer. So that will be a big relief for our field users. So thank you for adding that as part of this whole CIP projects. And once again, hopefully we can get all this thing lined up and get executed. That will be fantastic. Thanks.
Commissioner Dorlich.
Yeah, Brian, we're an expensive city to maintain, so this is great, seeing this. We have a very high level of excellence that we pursue. One thing I didn't see, which has been something the Parks Commission has, really had some feedback on over the years, are shade structures. And we had been trying to put at least one or so shade structure into the mix. I don't see it specifically mentioned on the citywide park amenities replacements and improvements, which is where I would think it would end up. Did we kind of put that on the next year, or do we have it someplace else, or what's the status on any of those?
Well, for this year planned, we do not have anything on there, but we'll definitely take note if that is a priority for the commission. Again, it's been a challenge with the funding, especially the park development fund, waiting for the big checks to come in, unfortunately, from the developers. So that one we've kind of just deferred out another year, but we'll take note. We can look at that, but at this time we deferred it a year. We also have deferred items well as we wait again for some of those big checks to come in that we thought were going to come in like last year, really, and we're still waiting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't term it a priority for the commission. It's a priority that's been brought to the commission by the community. And especially in the Doherty Valley, and where there are retirees that are, using the parks as gathering places, et cetera. And the shade has become one of those essentials that they were looking for. So I know over the last couple of years, we've done, 2 a year, trying to allocate them between different areas. So just something to keep in mind then.
Okay.
Yep, I understand priorities and I understand waiting for the big checks. So thank you.
Commissioner Lewis?
Hi, Brian, thank you so much for this. This was very helpful. I'm actually reading from the report and I have a real quick question because in the report, it says that we are going to, we recommend foregoing the 1.5 million from the general fund because I guess we don't really need it. We have enough money to fund all our projects. Is that correct?
That is correct. As I mentioned earlier in the slide, so we have 1.5 million typically of seed money.
Right.
This time because we received up to 24 million in the COP, and that has been funneled to, again, some infrastructure projects, buildings particular, among other things. I didn't list a focus for this group, but other things are the Bollinger Canyon overcrossing, the pedestrian and bike overcrossing. There is the ITS master plan where we're trying to get more fiber in the ground to signalize and sync our signals. Also the bike master plan, there's seed money for that to do some more bike facilities. So the great news is we've got a lot of money from the debt financing. So this year we did forego the 1.5 million. And part of that is balancing the budget. Again, like you started out, 1.5 is from the general fund. And right now, if you'll note, the council just had a meeting on the budget yesterday, and it's trying to make things work. I mean, unfortunately, the reality with COVID-19, everything going, and that revenue stream coming in is not quite there. So these are things we were able to help. The timing with the COP was great because then that 1.5 million we're going, and it's helped balancing other budgets within the overall city. So.
Okay, and so that leads me a little bit to my second question then. Do you foresee, because we're just one of many cities that have kind of, because of the COVID, we haven't been able to do a lot of things that we want to do. There could be a really backlog on construction workers and planners and all that. Do you see a problem there? Like actually, once we're ready to spend the money, are there going to be enough people to work for us? I mean, contract work.
It's a really good question. And in coordinating, especially engineering with all the construction going on, it really is what I call a perfect storm because everyone's been pretty much stagnant for a couple months, except for essential infrastructure, water lines, things break. Some of the communication companies have been out there when they've been on shelter at home. So it will be very busy, but we're geared up and ready to get going on a lot of the projects. I mean, right now, behind the scenes, we're working through a lot of the design and trying to get all those packages out to bid on. But there might be challenges there, absolutely, because you're shortening that construction window this year. So like I said, the perfect storm is you're squeezing it down because you've lost 2 months already. So so the good news is our timing was really good with the COP. The other good news is although it's projected out, within the regulations of the COP, the requirements, we have up to 3 years. So if things get delayed, it's not the end of the world, although we obviously would love to get all our facilities upgraded and all those things done. But if we do encounter delays, we actually have up to 3 years to spend that pot of money.
Okay,
So,
great.
and yes, as far as construction, I mean, you can stop me whenever because I can go on and on, of course, but there is with the county order, all the construction's back on now. Now, what I like to say is they're on, but under the restrictions. You have to comply with the county order and the construction requirements. And what that means, like Faria development, big residential development, they have to comply with the large order, which is they have to have all this distancing and all this protocol in place, temperature checks, and they have to have a safety officer out there. And so there's a lot of things set up right now when they are doing construction during this time. So they are moving if presently.
Okay, great. And then finally, I just was going to kind of back up what Commissioner Dorlick said, because we are finishing up our parks master plan that we put a lot of effort into. So there's a lot of projects on there where we're going to have to prioritize some, but that's probably, I guess, for not so much this year, but maybe next, but just to think about that.
That's correct. I think, again, if with any luck, if we can get in the funding from the developers, those two projects I mentioned earlier, Rome and then Aspenwood, that can really get things started to get projects done, because it's millions of dollars. So.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks so much.
There, you bet.
Commissioner Roberts?
Thank you. Brian, again, thanks, like everyone is saying, for the presentation and taking the time to find a tie, like the rest of us. To join this meeting.
It's a Hawaiian one too now. So.
I was, as I was going through the report, there was just that portion, and you may have answered this already, but, and I was also looking again at the asterisk, but there was the on page 10 of the packet, the portion that says projects have been reprioritized to address highest priority projects requiring immediate attention. The projects that received appropriation but had to be reprogrammed due to a lack of funding include. And so I just want to confirm that, you know, those first layer of projects, right? The safety regulations and playground upgrades, the restoration project, all the way down to the park restroom renovations. Those, it looks like the work was completed, I guess, on those, or are those ongoing?
For some of those, the work was completed. So yes, the funds have been really tight, waiting for that funding revenue to come through. As far as what was completed was the ADA. There's an asterisk.
Yeah, I saw the ones that were. The way that it was worded, I wasn't sure if those were reprogrammed, as in we're putting those on hold. But then, based on what you had mentioned earlier, it looks like the ones that are being pushed forward are the ones on the 2019-20 CIP projects, right? Except for the safety, which has been completed already.
That's correct.
And I guess you do see the where is it? The shade structure on there, but that's something for a year from now, sounds like.
Yes.
My last question is, in terms of these numbers, and unfortunately, we've come into this COVID-19 situation scenario. Should we be, as a commission, taking a step back and thinking about new numbers that have been presented here, especially on the ones that haven't been completed yet?
As far as budget-wise, when the staff has gone through this process, fortunately, unfortunately, COVID-19, the timing is never good, but
right.
It was at a time where we were able to adjust the priorities and timing of everything as it went through the process. So we feel comfortable with what we have presented here to move forward with for next year. And then hopefully we'll get more funding again with the development and give us a little bit more flexibility to do other projects, add more projects next.
I might dive in a little bit and help you out a smidgen, because I know the commission is very interested in the master plan. And of course, we haven't taken our final master plan to the city council yet. So it isn't actually an approved plan yet, but it will be soon. And then what we would anticipate doing as we move through this next year would be doing some applying of what's important and prioritization, so that as we come around this process again next year, we would be using some of the information that we've gleaned from the approved master plan. So right now we're kind of in the middle of this CIP process, but we haven't had a chance to adopt our plan and move forward with those. So you can look forward to that over the next 6 or 8 months. And then back this time next year, we'll be talking about things off the master plan, hopefully with some funding if it comes in. And again, everything, of course, finding funding sources.
So are there any other commissioners that wish to weigh in? Seeing none, I have a few comments. First of all, Brian, thank you for the presentation. I am interested in understanding whether this CIP program has been adjusted for the current budget situation, or are there going to be additional adjustments made, given the fact that Tuesday night that I heard that the city council identified a $1.9 million gap in the budget?
Okay, I was waiting to make sure you finished your
Yes.
sentence there. In answer to that question, every year we do the timing with the budget, the overall operating budget and the CIP concurrently. So it allows that give and take and adjustments as we go through the process. So no, they are hand in hand. And again, what's really helped out this year is not needing that 1.5 million from the general fund from infrastructure maintenance fund. So they are trying to balance that budget right now. The budget workshop yesterday, there was discussion of the reserve policy and other elements. So they're trying to piece it all together, but there's a confidence level they will. I think there's a combination of looking at the reserves and then again, the 1.5 million and these other elements going together. They're looking at service level type reductions for things that we can across all departments. So I think with all of that, it's nice to know the city's, I think, looking good, you know, and I mean, it's not, there's no guarantees with anything right now, but as far as taking what we have right now, it's a good forecast. So that's all we can do now. We can't really look too much further, and nobody can really see the crystal ball again, how things will play out. But in the now, it seems like things are balancing. And again, the capital budget and the operating go concurrently. So we have this meeting, and just like I mentioned, with the finance committee meeting Monday, and then following with that was the budget meeting. And in the budget meeting, there's touching on that 1.5 million and some unfunded projects. So we're constantly getting feedback and adjustments in the process. So the whole process, the whole road show, as I call it, is effective because we hit the council a few times, and we hit all these committees, get their input and put together what I feel is a good plan. And then we roll it out July 1st, and then we do the same thing the next year.
Well, I think to the rest of the commissioners, I know Kathy and I had talked about the impact of the master plan and how we would get it connected into the CIP program. And we both realized that, you know, trying to get it into this year and trying to get it approved and all of that, the timing just didn't line up. So our opportunity will be for the next cycle. Hopefully, you know, the economy will start rebounding, and it'll be an easier discussion next year. But we'll have to take that when it comes around next year. Now, my understanding is this was just for us to receive the update, and there's no action by the commission. Is that correct?
Don't we need to?
So one last opportunity. Does anybody else have any comment for Brian? Otherwise, we will close this item and move on to the next item.
Sounds good.
All right. We're going to move. Thank you, Brian, and stay safe.
All right, you too. Thank you.
So item 8.2, the 2020-2021 Teen Council appointment recommendations.
Hold on one moment. I apologize. So, as you know, we have been moving through this teen council process, and a portion of the commissioners did the review of the applications that we did receive. And the other portion of our commissioners conducted interviews. Those interviews were interrupted and they had to be done virtually. So that was a new big step for us to take. But perhaps the commissioners who were involved in both those processes may wish to discuss their decisions in that regard. Any of you have any comments on the process before we move to the list of names for approval?
So I would like to hear from the group that did the review of the written applications. And then I think I would suggest that those of us who did the interviews kind of weigh in so that everybody has an understanding of the process. So I see Commissioner Lewis has her hand up. But she's silent. She needs to unmute herself.
I never do that. God, now I see other people do it and they're like, you're muted. But anyway, so I was on, this is the first time, and I've done the interviews a couple of times. This is the first time reviewing. And with me were Commissioner Lopez Lucy and Commissioner Roberts. And I'll tell you, we did discuss beforehand, just so that we're all, because we're each of us are reviewing, I don't know even how many there were, 30 something each. And I recommend that, I think Kathy recommended that you just kind of discuss beforehand how you're going to rate them, so that the other commissioners know what I'm doing. So we're kind of on the same page. And I think that worked, but boy, it's tough. It's really a tough process, and I don't know how to make it easier. So.
Okay, Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
I agree. It's a really tough job to do, and you just have to keep looking at the requirements, and some if there's a few that you can eliminate, unfortunately, right away because they haven't followed any of the rules. But in looking at some of the others, after I know Commissioner Lewis had to leave, and so Commissioner Roberts and I went through them, and it was interesting to see the difference in the I should say, I guess, the essays and everything that they did. Some of them were excellent, and some of them, certainly could be improved. But I don't know how you do it any different, because it's just a tough job, and you have to go through it and go through it again and make sure that you're fair to all of them. But.
So Kathy, I think we had 90 applicants, which was up from the prior year, which was about 70.
Yeah, so we had 92 applicants actually, and this year we did not require them to come in person to turn them in, because we realized, again, that was maybe a little onerous on the parents trying to get the kids here to City Hall, so they could submit them otherwise. Of those 92, it was narrowed to 39 for interviews. Yeah. And then we're looking for a recommendation for 18 applicants for the actual committee.
Okay, so Commissioner Roberts, you had your hand up?
Yeah, first of all, I have to say, I'm so lucky that Commissioner Carol Lopez Lucy was not my 12th grade teacher, because she was tough. And I just, I mean, wow. But, you kind of had to be. What I was going to say was I probably wouldn't have passed 12th grade if she were one of my teachers. But
not that bad.
No, in all seriousness, I really appreciated being a part of the group that went through these resumes. I didn't think it was going to be that difficult. I look at resumes all the time, and you might want 1 out of 30, right? That you see, if that, at any given time. But this was a situation where, I was given, we were all given about 30 resumes each. And it was like every single one you wanted on the team. You wanted to pick every single person. And it just, it was an extremely difficult process to go through those resumes. Everybody that I went through was qualified. And so, like everyone is saying, it was very difficult. But I think that we communicated well, to make sure that at the end of the day, even though we knew that everybody was qualified, I think we communicated between the 3 of us to make sure that we were extremely fair. We didn't rush the process, and that I think everyone really had a fair shot. So whoever didn't make it, I hope that they reapply, and those that did, it is well deserved. So again, it was just a great process. I was happy to be involved in it. I just didn't realize how difficult of a process it was actually going to be.
I will say that when we got together, Commissioner Roberts and I, we kind of made sure that we certainly had a group of female, male that was, sort of equal. There's not ever equal, but that was not really one-sided, and that applicants were from Cal High and Daughtery, and then we had the one from Quarry Lane. So we did take that into consideration also. But
Well, I would have to say you did give us a diverse pool to interview, so you guys achieved what you were trying to do.
yeah, we did.
So-
We didn't want them all seniors, and we tried to diversify in that area too. So we tried to take everything into consideration.
And I know
Okay.
that everyone else will agree. All the names on the list are I'm just so excited that, many of those names that I really felt were qualified are on there, which is, so it's really fantastic. So
Good.
everyone is definitely deserving to be on that list.
So Commissioner Dorlick, would you like to speak next?
Thank you, Chair. I think that having only done the interview side in my tenure on the commission, I think it went very well this year, especially considering the transition to interactive online meeting versus in person. Hats off to Christy for the coordination and getting everything lined up and the scheduling. I think Don and Julia will agree. It went very smoothly, as smoothly as we could possibly hope for. And the decision process was also, not belabored, but very collaborative. So I think we came up just not really looking to come up with the mix, but we came up with the mix regardless, that resulted in a good distribution. So I was very happy with the process and the results.
Good. Commissioner Osland?
Thank you, Christy, very much for getting us organized and using Zoom and being able to interface with the students. I want to thank Chair Birnbaum and Commissioner Dorlich for being my partners in this. And it was really a rich experience. It was great to meet all these smart kids that really care about our community. They're very driven to do the right things. They have all such great ideas, and it was really wonderful. The hard part, of course, is having to pick just a few out of the wonderful candidates that we had. And if there was anything that I would love to change, is to give everybody an opportunity to have an opportunity to participate on the commission, so on the teen council. But otherwise, I would say, not knowing the old way of doing this, I thought this was very effective. It was very time efficient, and the time that we had in front of the students was just the right amount of time, and it also gave us a chance to huddle afterwards and then get ready for the next one. So I thought it went really well, and the hardest part is really narrowing it down and not giving everyone the opportunity, but I know that they will have chances. So
do you want do you want to give trophies to all those who didn't make it and the
Yeah,
council?
we're
I
not
just
doing
want
that.
everyone to have a chance to be the leader on the council.
So I again would mirror the comments of the fellow commissioners. Thank you, Christy, for your organization. It did run very smoothly. The kids were very good in being on time in the waiting room. So from an interview standpoint, it ran very smoothly. Vanili, I want to thank you for your comments on the
Mhm.
returning
Yep.
candidates.
Good point.
It was very, very useful in our discussion. So thank you for having taken the time to do that.
Yeah, of course. I'm really glad that they helped you guys.
I would say, having done this for 3 or 4 years, the interviews, the most remarkable thing that I saw were these kids were not as stressed out as they were in prior years. There were comments of, I'm catching up on my sleep, I am a little bored, but I don't feel so stressed out. So there might be a little nugget of positiveness coming through with this COVID thing, where the kids are not overscheduled right now. And so I think that was an observation that I made that I thought that was very useful. When we went through the list, I'll give you a little background on the recommendations, and then we can maybe move to the discussion about the votes. We got a very good distribution, I believe, of grades, schools, returnees, and I know that this is not something we're supposed to be overly concerned about, but gender too. I think that, and quite frankly, we did not have to do anything other than add up the numbers. The three of us ranked all three of them, all of the candidates. We discussed what the ranking was. We put the numbers down, and then we did the simple math, and it just kind of fell out. So that was a very positive thing. Of the list that we've recommended of the 18, 8 of them are 12th graders, 10 of them are 11th graders. There's 1 9th grader, 6 of them are from Cal High, 12 of them are from DVC, or from Doherty Valley, and 1 of them's from Quarry Lane. 10 of them are returning, and the male female is 7 males and 12 females. So vastly different than previous years. So you guys who did the reviews on the written ones, you gave us a good pool, and the pool worked out. So Kathy, I have one question that we had. How is the vice chairman selected for next year?
Well, what happens is you forward this recommendation to the city council. The city council then appoints this group. Then from this group that is appointed, they can apply for the vice chair position. The person who is selected as the vice chair would then begin their 2-year term, and they would be the vice chair next year, and then they would move into the chair position. So at this point, where the city council used to appoint a chairperson every year, now they appoint a vice chair. So last year was the 1 year where we had to appoint 2 because we had to start the system. But from here on out, the city council will always appoint a vice chair from within the group that is selected in the first place.
Okay. So are there any questions? Do we need to move to the list? Do we need to go down through the list? And then I have a procedural question. There is a gentleman on the list who's has a commissioner who is part of the family, is that person allowed to vote for it, or do they need to recuse themselves? What is the procedural requirement?
I believe the appropriate thing would be to abstain or recuse from this particular vote.
Sounds good.
All right. So are there any questions regarding the list? Then I will entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the list as presented
I
for the
second.
2020-2021 Teen Council
And the wait list?
and the wait list.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Okay, there is been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, can we move to a vote?
Commissioner Dorlick,
yes.
Commissioner Lewis,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Yes,
Commissioner Osland,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Vice Chair Veros,
Abstain?
Chair Birnbaum.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so that will move on to the meeting on the 26th.
Yes. Yes.
Kathy, is that true?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay. So item 8.3, Parks and Community Services COVID-19 response.
Yeah, so we wanted to give you a little update since we didn't meet last month on everything that has occurred within the department over the last month or two in relationship to COVID-19. We have been giving regular updates to the City Council, but I wanted to have a chance to fill you all in. So Christy's going to help me out by sharing the screen to my PowerPoint, I think.
Here, share. If I did it right.
There we go. So just start the slideshow from the beginning.
Okay.
There we go. All right. So as you know, the Parks and Community Service Department has been quite busy working on several new initiatives to help the community through the crisis. And they've also been working a lot, making plans how we can offer limited programs this summer that fit into the county and state guidelines to keep everyone safe. And that's been a challenge, but we can talk about it a little bit more at the end of the presentation if you like. Next slide. So one of the big things that the department took on as an initiative was to start some hotlines. So we established a senior hotline number, both in English and in Mandarin, as a way for seniors to be able to sign up for our lunch delivery program and to communicate other needs they might have. Because when this crisis first started, people were having a tough time finding toilet paper. We were concerned about people, if they needed food, the seniors were being asked not to go outside. And so to date, staff have received when I printed this, it was 491, but now we've gone over 500 calls on that senior hotline. The majority of them are asking for lunches and different kinds of food things usually. We also established a new COVID-19 general hotline number for the public. So once we had the senior one and that was going well, there was a need to have another number so that just your general public could call in and get additional support. Since that hotline was established, we've received 53 calls, so not as many. The majority are asking about resources for low-income families, locations of the testing centers, what activities are allowable during the shelter in place. And as you know, that changes very frequently. So there's a pretty constant barrage of questions. And those call numbers go up whenever the order changes. Next slide. We've been doing the senior lunch delivery and pickup program. You can see in the picture in the corner of the PowerPoint slide, those little red ice chests. That is how the meals come from the county. They're coming frozen in 7-meal packs. And so for each person, there's a ice chest cooler. There's a bag that has some additional fruit and milk and other food. And our staff, along with the help of the San Ramon Police Department, the San Ramon Valley Fire District, and the San Ramon Public Works Department, deliver all of those little ice chests out to everyone. So to give you kind of a frame, when our normal lunch program operated prior to the crisis, on an average day without a special event, we'd have about 40 people show up. But now we have climbed up to 144 meals, 117 of which are being delivered and 27 picked up. So it's a huge endeavor. It takes a team. It's our staff running a small special event every Tuesday as the county drops these off to make sure that there are routes created so they know where they're going, so that the lunches can all be delivered. Because in theory, we're supposed to get those all out between 12 and 2. And so it's quite an endeavor, and they're doing a great job with it. So I think the staff feel good that we're able to support seniors in the community. The seniors, often it's the one person they're going to see, especially if they're isolated all week, is the delivery of that lunch. And so it gives them a chance to talk to somebody and connect for a moment. So I think of all the things that we have ever done as a department, this I would classify as one of the most important and essential services in a crisis we've ever been asked to do. Next slide. So as I said, the deliveries include the meals, but along with the meals, we also include requested items. So if we get the call that they need toilet paper, that they need paper towels, they need bleach wipes, they need more canned food, we would include that. And in addition, staff want to continue to engage as they are community recreation people. So we always include a game pack that has fun activities. We've had some handmade cards by some kids in the community. We've been able to include those. We included, when the mask order started, a flyer on how to make your own mask. We included a flyer on how to use Zoom, because lots of people don't know how to use Zoom. And so some of you remember Shruti, our teen council chair from the previous year. She came back, and as a college student, her, along with some other college students and teen council members, had some initiatives to try and help. And so the how to use Zoom was something that she worked on. And so we were able to push that out to the seniors. And then of course we had developed a senior resource flyer that we've been made available to the community. And so that was also included. Next slide. In addition, we have been collecting goods. So as I mentioned, we had requests for different items from seniors. And so we took on the initiative using our volunteer program to collect donations of items so that we could redistribute them to the seniors. So just to give you a sense of what people have been asking for, we've filled at this point over 138 requests for items, 68 requests for paper goods, 29 requests for food, 32 requests for masks, 8 requests for cleaning items, and 1 request for transportation. And we were able to solve all of those problems. So we feel good about that. In addition to the food and the supplies, we also were concerned mostly about isolation and seniors being alone and in a house by themselves with no connection. And so to that end, right when the crisis first started, we pulled all of the lists that we had in relationship to our senior programs. We came up with over 600 people, and our staff got on the phones and they made personal telephone calls to each of them to say, hey, how are you? We're here, we care. They told them about the hot lunch program. They told them about the senior resources. They made themselves available to answer any questions and solve problems if we could. Of those 600 calls they made, we offered to make weekly or daily calls. 30 of the seniors requested and are receiving weekly calls still. So the staff that originated with those calls have kept them. And so they've built some relationships and are still checking on those seniors who really need a lifeline. Next slide. In addition to that, we also got into PPE collection. So personal protective equipment, it's now one of those acronyms that everybody needs to know. Do you have your PPEs? So the county, actually via the library, started a PPE collection. And so they approached the city and said, hey, we are looking for a site. And we were perfect. We're right across the street from the library. So we said, great, we could do the county collection site here at City Hall. So the county manned it. They brought out the big trucks and people, and we helped advertise it. And they collected lots of the N95 masks, gloves, all of those PPE. And then when their collection ended and they moved on to another community, the city decided to go ahead and continue it. And so we manned it with city staff and were able to continue collecting those items. All told, to date, we collected almost 5,000 PPEs. Those have all been taken and stored in a warehouse in Concord so that hospitals and other medical businesses can contact the county and then they can get them repurposed out to them. So it's just a way of being able to move the supply to where the supply is needed. The community was great. We received huge donations from many, many businesses that helped bring those numbers up. And then in addition, because the county is operating some essential worker childcare, we also received donations of baby wipes and paper products for those services. The next PPE collection, because it went so well, the county is coming back out, will be on May 26th to 28th from 10 to 2, again here at City Hall. Next. So one of the silver linings to the COVID-19, and it's hard to find silver linings, but sometimes things happen and you end up with an outcome that you didn't realize would happen. But the Trails and Open Space program really have become a lifeline for much of the community. And because we started the Easy to Hike app, we were able to really quantify and see exactly how many people are up there and using it. So what we did right at first when this happened, we needed to make sure that people on the trails understood that they still needed to maintain social distancing. So staff was able to establish in-park notifications. So when people turned the app on, it would pop up and remind them of, social distancing and being safe on the trail. We'd also started our Trails Challenge a little early, which was very helpful because we could also push that out to the middle schools and high schools as an opportunity for students to participate in PE. And of course, to the adults just to get some physical fitness. Since 3/1, the Easy to Hike app has been downloaded 1,386 times just in the San Ramon area. Those San Ramon trails have been viewed 2,022 times. And actually those numbers have again gone higher. But I think the most amazing one is that there have been 822 separate hikers who spent a combined total of 1,082 hours on our trails utilizing the app while hiking. And that number is still climbing. So although the COVID-19 situation is not a great situation, it really did push people out to find our trails and open space and to enjoy and use that area. Next slide. So I mentioned before we collected donations, and as the crisis began, we had many, many people step forward and want to volunteer. And as we were trying to get organized, we developed a COVID-19 community response volunteer group. And so through City Lights, people signed up there. We have 90 volunteers signed up in that group, ready to go. And what we asked them to do first was to do outreach to their own neighborhoods, to download our senior resource flyer and carry it down their own streets and put it on the doors of the people in their neighborhood that they might have seen. Maybe there's an older person that they did not know well, but they'd seen him, and we asked them to distribute that way because we thought that was a good way to get to people who might not know about the services available. Then we asked them for donation of the hard to find items. And at the beginning of the crisis, you couldn't find a roll of toilet paper to save your life anywhere. But our volunteers finally did start bringing them in. They found, and you've seen a picture there of people who have brought different hard to find items in, which have been, again, a lifeline to the seniors who we were able to redistribute them to. And then with the advent of the masks, we have received dozens of donations of handmade masks for seniors. And again, a godsend, because many of the seniors who we're providing services to aren't as tech savvy. So they're not able to order the things online like everybody else. And how do you get a mask if you can't order it online and you can't go out of your house, but you got to wear a mask when you go out of your house? So those donated masks have been very, very helpful. There were also a couple of volunteer organizations, the Free Masketeers, who were developed, and they also have been sourcing masks and making masks. And there have been several other big groups in San Ramon who have done the same thing to help try and provide some assistance during this crisis. We expect that this needs will continue to grow as long as this goes on, and our COVID-19 response volunteer group is ready to act when we have tasks for them. Next slide. I don't know if you've had a chance to visit the department's virtual recreation center, but if you haven't, you should log into the city website, click on the COVID ribbon at the top, and then click on our virtual rec center. When you go into that, you'll find all kinds of indoor activities that you can do with your family, outdoor activities that you can do in San Ramon, virtual classes that you can attend once a week. And even we held our virtual event Party in the Park, which was the event to kind of kick off summer. And we had coupon codes and videos and activities and all kinds of things. So it's a fun place to go. We know that it's been a help to the community because we can see that the page has been viewed 3,549 times. So people are clearly using it and going back and using it again. It's a work in progress still. So we are still adding more videos and trying to keep the content fresh. So definitely take time to go visit it. Next. And then you probably also noticed via social media, we realized that there's a lot of isolation that's happening, you know, by everyone being stuck at home and unable to connect with each other. So we started to use our Facebook page to come up with fun ways that families and people could connect. And so it's hashtag San Ramon at home, and you'll find weekly challenges that aim to engage with a wide range of community members. So not just children, not just adults, trying to connect with everyone. So particularly there was a puzzle one, you know, so and everybody seems to be working on a jigsaw puzzle at home. And so when we put that one out there, you got dozens of pictures. The dog post was huge when people asked about their pets at home. I think that's the one we mentioned here with 1,284 people with 26 photos of people sharing their pet photos. So it's broad, it's across San Ramon, but it really was a way to try and connect. I think our next slide, Christy, shows some of the social media posts, just a few of them that were fun. And so hopefully you're seeing those, hopefully you participate, share them, keep them moving, because I think they really do offer an opportunity for our community to do a little connection with each other during these times when they really can't connect so easily. So that's the end of my formal presentation. I do want to add what's going on a little bit with our summer program planning. I think our staff right now, they're working really, really hard. So they are trying their best to adapt our summer programs to the different county and state regulations and laws. And it hasn't been an easy thing because the regulations keep changing. So it's a bit of a moving target. And so at this point in time, they're adapting again. We are working with the current county and state or county ruling, which says we can work with stable groups of 12 children with the same teachers in a camp format. And so that's what we anticipate rolling out in June. It won't be the first week of June because we need to hopefully bring our staff in for training. We've hired temp staff. We're training them online right now, but before we can roll out a program for real live in-person people, we need to have some training and set up some sites. So we'll be looking at doing a much abridged program, not nearly as many camps as you're ever used to seeing because we need to provide social distancing. So you might only have 2 or 3 camps that are operating at the community center because we only have a couple of rooms and outdoor spaces that we can do that. They'll only have a max of 12. You'll see them spread out into our different facilities and in order so that we can serve a few more kids. We did put out a survey to the community, which you might have seen. We're still collecting responses on that to find out how much interest there was to have some summer programs for kids. And the early results on those are showing us that people, you know, about half the respondents were interested in June, many more interested in July. I think people are still waiting to see what unfolds. So we're going to try and be nimble and keep pivoting and provide those programs to the best of our ability. But it's definitely a work in progress. So I probably will have a lot more to tell you next month. Can I answer any questions for you?
Any questions? Well, I have one comment, and I direct this comment to you, Kathy. I think, you know, your organization has really stepped up. You've really identified a need that the community needed. And you've got a great team around you, but it starts with the top and the leadership to drive that. So I really admire you for what you've done. And I know that the community has benefited from the great staff that you've had and the dedication of all of those people. So please extend, the commission's, gratitude. I also see that Commissioner Lopez Lucy has her hand up now.
I too wanted to I think that Kathy and all the staff have done a wonderful job. I mean, what you've done with the seniors and how you've planned and collected all the items that are needed. I just think we can't thank you enough for your leadership and the wonderful staff that we have. And I know even watching the mayor's videos on every Friday morning, what they tell, I mean, everybody that's from our city, I think we should be very proud that we live in San Ramon, because I think we have an excellent team and that you do just a fantastic job. So thank you so much.
Commissioner Veros.
Oh, thank you. Looks like this Zoom, I'll be always on the top, like at least for me, it looks like that. Anyway, so as we all know that we are going through one of the worst pandemic in my or everyone's lifetime, right? So hopefully this is first and last for every one of us. And I definitely echo with our fellow commissioners about the great work that is done by our staff and the leadership. It's phenomenal, fantastic work that all you did. So, and especially the park closure signs, as well as the social distancing. I see it in the parks, as well as everywhere, wherever I went into just to walk through and check it out. So I've seen even at the trails and all that. Thanks for all that. One thing is that I keep on getting pinged by community residents is about the basketball courts. It looks like there's like tons of kids, they keep on playing basketball. And just to make sure that I too get a first-hand observation, I went and checked. I do see that there's a lot of kids there like playing every evening, especially in the San Ramon Sports Park. So there are a lot of residents that keep complaining about that, how we can stop that. And I remember sending an email to you, Kathy, on that. So I know you already communicated with the public service on that. Is there any response on that one? Did we get any response from public services?
Well, at this time they are closed and they are signed as closed. We do have some public services people here. Brent, I don't know if you want to pop in, if you want to address that. I can see you.
Yes. Good evening, Commission. So yes, actually under the current report, the basketball courts are open. We have placed signs for them to not, it has to be within a family to play on the courts. Same with the tennis courts. Other than that, PD has been informed to check the different basketball courts. And if they notice gathering, they are to break that up. So because of the report from the county, once the courts open, we have them open.
Oh, okay. From with the latest ordinance, we should be able to open the courts. But then do we still maintain the social distance? Do we need that? Because what the residents are keep on complaining is that there are a lot of kids from not same family as you mentioned, but from different families. And as I said, just 2 days, 3 days back, I actually just wanted to make sure walk through that. I just walked through that near the basketball court, and I saw the major problem is that the whole court is occupied. I understand the kids are frustrated. I have 2 kids at my home. I understand how frustrated they are, but I see that the court is totally occupied. The number of kids on that single court was wow. I didn't see that before. Now I see more and more of them. So is there any possibility that can be put like sign, like saying that oh, at a time only these many people can be on the court or something?
You know what, that's a good suggestion. We can definitely look at it again. So we'll talk to the police department and talk to the other staff and see if we can come up with some other solutions. Thank you for letting us know that. You know, I thought it was taken care of, but it sounds like it is a bigger problem specifically at the sports park. I have not seen that on the half court here in Central Park. So I don't know, maybe that particular location is experiencing the problem. But thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you. Thanks for that. That's all.
Commissioner Lewis.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Kathy, and I'm just echoing what everybody else said, how wonderful your staff is. It's amazing. I've seen the social media and, you know, I know your staff and they're home having to deal with this too. And I think a lot of them have very small children. So they've got all that going on. And I know that. So, but the things you've done for the seniors, and I am sitting in on the Friday mayor's breakfast. And I know you were, I think, at the first one and kind of went over everything that the Parks and Community Services is doing. And it just is a testament to your name, Community Services. You guys are amazing. And just thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I will pass the accolades along to the staff because really our senior team, they really developed and they jumped up fast to help deliver what they did. So Becky, Steve, Susie, Jessica, Kathy, they all did an amazing job.
Very good.
Commissioner Roberts.
Thanks. And again, just like everyone else is saying, I think that the department is just doing a fantastic job. You know, and I just particularly around the seniors who truly need the help right now. So all that information that I went through just fantastic, especially around making those calls, because I know that it's not hard to get a hold of everybody, but then to continue to do that and to reach people and to give them the best information possible is great. And like a couple of people have already mentioned about those calls on Fridays, as we all, I think, have joined on those calls on Fridays, led or hosted by the mayor. I think those are just fantastic calls, very informative and helpful. And I'm just wondering, like, for instance, like the 30 seniors who have voiced their requests to have weekly calls, if they are encouraged to join on those calls as well. Because I've talked to several seniors in the community who still, for whatever reason, don't know about those types of calls or anything, and so I'm always trying to promote to join on those so that they be more informed. So this is not really a question. This is more of just I don't know if when you guys reach out to them and you do promote those types of calls or that type of information.
Yeah, I don't think that we have. That's a great idea. So we can definitely, that might be another great handout to put in our packets with our lunches and also for our phone calls. So we'll definitely pass that along to the staff. Good idea.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
No, I spoke.
Oh, well, you still have your hand up.
No, it said lower hand.
No, your hand's still up.
Well, I just, okay.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Commissioner Veros, you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out for our teen council, past teen council members. They did a fantastic job. It was nice seeing them on my Zoom meetings with them. So whatever the compilation that they did was, right now it is being even used by our Contra Costa County as well as our Alameda County. They're all using that compiled version. So I just want to give credit to our commission also for producing such an excellent teen council members, and we are lucky to have such great kids in our community. That's all. Thanks.
Well, I think, Kathy, you hear it from all of us, and it's, I think we're all speaking from the heart. So hopefully you can convey that onto your team because you guys really do go above and beyond. It's not a job. It's it's a vocation that you've chosen, and it shows.
Thank you so much. I will pass it on to them.
So we're going to move on to item 9, staff reports. Everybody looking around?
Which is
Yeah,
the 11th.
the recreation report. So the recreation report's in your packet. And so I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything you might want to know.
I have one question. I read through that report that the community center remodel is moving along, but I also saw in there that the tile ceilings for the main room are hung up in New Zealand.
The sound baffles. So those, you might not have even noticed them before, but in the fountain room, there's this kind of curve that goes all the way around, and there are these sound baffles that go on there that soften it, the noise, so you don't,
Yeah.
it's easier to hear in there. And those are what got stuck in New Zealand due to COVID-19. I believe they were delayed, but last I heard from Sandy, they are on their way now. So
Okay, so they're not going to, they're not something significant that would delay it. They could be installed after.
yeah, the building itself, I did a walkthrough earlier this week with Sandy, is astoundingly gorgeous. It's like a whole new building. I think you'll all be incredibly pleased when you eventually get to see it. Again, one of these random blessings is it probably would have gone over its scheduled time in completion. And because we had to close everything, they've had plenty of time with which to install and get things back in their places and finish up. But there will, as with any construction project, there will be some details that will be waiting still yet to be done. We probably won't be having a big party. I'm sorry to say there won't be a big grand opening ribbon cutting, but we are already planning on doing some kind of a virtual opening. So we'll probably have to get Commissioner Dorlick's expertise here on how to do a fabulous virtual tour of our new building and celebrate it that way until everybody can come in. We will, of course, find a time for the commission and the city council to, of course, tour it, but for the general public.
So are there any other questions on the staff reports? Then we will move on to update of city council reports.
Okay. So I put together some notes that, obviously, with what's going on right now, I decided to go back as far as March or late March, when I think that was around the time where we had the first city council teleconference. And so I just gathered as much information as I could regarding, parks and community services. And going back to that first meeting, where it was the minute order number 2020-004, which was the 2019 general plan annual report. I feel like the Parks and Community Services was mentioned quite a bit in that report. Things that were specifically the key efforts that were initiated, continued, or completed in 2019. In that report were things like the Parks, Trails, Open Space, and Recreation Master Plan update, underway with anticipated adoption in 2020. Began review of the City Walk Master Plan project, the development of a site-specific recommendations for renovation of Crook Canyon Gardens, and the completion of the Forest Home Farms old bar renovation project. So, I mean, there were a number of items in there that I could go over, but those were just some of the things I just pulled out. Just kind of mentioned that in that meeting we were discussed quite a bit. Moving forward into the next month, and of course, as we talked about tonight, a lot of the commissions and committee meetings have been canceled, but City Council had continued to press on and have meetings, obviously through community telecom and Zoom. And in that April 14th meeting, something to note was that we, and I'm just kind of focusing on this because I was involved in some of the interviews, and many of those interviews actually. And so in City Council made some appointments. And for the Arts Advisory Committee appointments, we had Jennifer McCoy, David Owens, and Ofer Dalal to serve as regular members. And then we had Mohammed Ranj Barsadeg to serve as alternate number 1 for the Arts Advisory Committee. And then the Library Advisory Committee appointments, we had Cindy Alpert and Kathleen Gilchrist to serve as regular members, and then Luz Gomez to serve as alternate number 2. And then lastly, for the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee appointment, they appointed Molly Abreu and Wayne Mortensen, as well as Joan Ernst to serve as regular members, and then Naeem Katabi to serve as an alternate. So those were all the appointments from that meeting on April 14th. And then again, moving forward in April, they met again on April 28th. And one thing we had already talked about, which is the resolution number 2020-032, which was authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with My Park Supply LLC to provide the replacement children's play structure for the Santa Ramon Olympic Pool and Aquatic Park in an amount not to exceed $350,000 funded by the certificates of participation. So we kind of went over that, so I won't go into depth with that. And then moving forward, there was a special presentation. Kathy Hyman had introduced the Senior Community Library Manager, Dina Hollywood, to recognize National Library Week. So that happened. And then, of course, I think the bulk of what I was going to sort of update everyone on is the staff report, the resolution number 2020-033, which is a public hearing establishing fees and charges, which was approved unanimously by the council. And with regards to parks and community services, I'll just kind of, stop me if you want to know the details, because there's a ton of detail here. So I'll just kind of give you the summary of what these what this sort of meant, right?
Scott, I mean, if is it what we recommended?
Yeah, essentially, yes. So I mean, I could just kind of go through just quickly the 8, right? The first one was facility transaction fee classifications. 2 was the indoor facility rental fee increase for all rental classifications. The third was the increase fees for picnic and group picnic rentals. Number 4 was field rental grass field hourly fee increase. 5 was the additional field rental hourly fee increase. And then 6 was the Doherty Station Community Center front row theater rental fee increase. And then 7, the Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center theater rental fee increase. And then lastly, was the Santa Ramon Olympic Pool and Aquatic Park and Doherty Valley Aquatic Center special event and lane use fees. Collectively, total fiscal impact for all 8 mentioned proposed fee increases has an estimated revenue increase of $140,444. So I thought I'd mention that. And then since they were all approved, it looks like, unless there's something changed with what's going on with COVID-19, it looks like those adjustments are going to occur on July 1st, 2020. If I'm wrong, I guess, I mean, that may have changed based on what's going on right now. But that's what I gathered from the update, sort of going all the way back to late March until now.
Okay. Any other committee meetings? Because I know, for example, open space has been canceled. So EDAC.
EDAC has been canceled. All of them have been canceled, and the Planning Commission met. And what they're working on is accepting parts of Doherty Valley into the city.
Okay.
That was the main emphasis. And
Commissioner Lewis, do you have anything?
Well, no, but I'm teen council, and of course they haven't been meeting, but I wonder, Kathy, maybe we should get a report from the teen council. Are we doing that this year? Because it's, oh yes. Next time?
Yeah, we're doing it at the next meeting.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be virtually too. So
Yeah, I think so. But still, it would be nice to honor, because you guys did a lot of work, and Vanilla, you've been great. So
thank you. Yeah.
so, yeah, we get to see you one more time at least, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, just as a point to clarify, we got the city council up first on Zoom, and then we moved on to the commissions. The teen council had to be the next committee up in our department, and so they'll actually be meeting next week. You'll get the agenda. I think it's probably getting posted tomorrow. And then we'll be moving back into all of the other committees in the month of June. So you can expect the Arts Advisory, the Senior Advisory, the Library Advisory, all of those to start kicking up again as we bring them all onto this platform for as long as we need to be on it. The teens had to, you're right, Shelley, because their annual report had to get done. So they needed to be able to approve it so that it could move on to you guys for the first meeting in June. And then they'll be taking that to City Council the second meeting in June, which is a little late this year, but understandable given the situation.
So Commissioner Osborne, do you have anything?
Nope, I don't.
Commissioner Veros,
Nope, no committee meetings. Thank you.
Commissioner Dorlich,
No, Arts Advisory has not been meeting and will resume in June, as Kathy was indicating with a Zoom meeting.
okay. So any other items for the good of the order? So no comments. So I will adjourn the meeting at 8:41.